basically, right? I've grown up in this terrible time, right? What has been remarkable is that the official message from the top while this was happening is that all the old stuff about peripheral countries, imperialism, domination, and so on is all cut. Now we're going to enter the lovely period of globalization. We're all going to become part of this globalized economy, and we will all converge, and we will all rise and become happier ever after. What has emerged in practice is an incredible redivision of the world, a stratification of the world entirely on a capitalist basis. The periphery today is not pre-capitalist or non-capitalist. If you think about the classic, say, Marxist distinctions, people used to say there's a periphery, which say was India or Africa or parts of Asia, which were not capitalistic, right? They were very low level of development. So the capitalist core in Europe could arrive and dominate those countries because Europe was more developed, you had better guns, you had more industry, and so on. And you could dominate these pre-capitalistic areas and exploit them in a variety of ways. That doesn't exist today. The periphery that we're talking about is all capitalistic. The distinctions we get between core and periphery are on a capitalist basis. Capitalism recreates core and periphery. It's remarkable, and we've seen it in our time. Even when it dominates the globe, it recreates core and periphery. Even in Europe, which is presumably an alliance of partners, in practice, what we've seen is the emergence of a variety of peripheries. There is a core in Europe, Germany, France, Italy, and then there is a number of peripheries. The southern periphery, the Baltic periphery, the Eastern European periphery. Well, that is writ large across the world. And what has happened in the periphery, and that's remarkable, is the emergence of new centers of semi-independent or independent capitalist accumulation. That's what makes our present time different. China, Brazil, India, Russia. Russia is far more important economically than people allow for. It's an independent center of capitalist accumulation, Russia is. All the challenges to the hegemonic position of the United States in the world economy are coming from this part of the world now, from the new periphery. That's where they're coming from. It's a battle for hegemonic domination. In the periphery, you also have stratification. Of course, not everything is China. There are areas which are far poorer and far less capable. Why that has happened is a big story, and I can't go into it. But that's the kind of division we see. Two types of capital are important. This, and I'll finish with that. The first is globalized productive capital, which I've mentioned, much of it emanating from the West, spreading its tentacles across the world and forcing other countries to grow. And they are also developing their own globalized productive capital. It's a mistake to think that it's only Western. Chinese big businesses are also operating globally. Indian big businesses are also operating. Russian big businesses used to operate globally until the sanctions were imposed on them. So we have globalized productive capital and globalized finance. The combination of globalized productive capital and globalized finance is the most aggressive pairing of private capitals we've ever known in the history of capitalism. It's that's what's underneath the tensions and the re-emergence of imperialism that we've seen visibly in the last decade. I mean, it's incredible what's happening right now. And we're on the verge of essentially imperialist contests, which we haven't known since 1914. The world looks like it did when Lenin wrote and Hilferding wrote the classic Marxist accounts. It's very dangerous. And unless working people emerge and put their own independent position on the table, there will not be pacification, because the drive underneath is economic. It's not an ideological difference or a cultural difference. This is just nonsense. The difference is economic underneath, and it is this big business contestation for the world market. I could have said more about that, but anyway, let's stop it. Thank you very much for listening to me.